Hello, and welcome to another episode of LinkedIn for Lawyers, true stories of client acquisition told by attorneys. My name is Vikram Rajan. I am the co-founder of Video Socials. We are a video marketing community and automation app for attorneys, but also for accountants, coaches, and consultants who come together in our video blogging clubs, record together, fun and done, and then use our Brander automation app to get those videos posted, of course, on LinkedIn, but Facebook Live, YouTube, and also on their WordPress website. And I'm looking forward to learning today from Lauren and Jessica of how they have benefited from LinkedIn directly. I'm looking forward for you to meet them. I've known both of them for a good amount of time, but we've never had this kind of a discussion. So we're doing it on the air. So it's kind of funny for me to play.
But you also forgot that, or Jessica forgot that I'm the one that introduced you guys.
Right. So Lauren introduced me to Jessica. Jessica has become a really great friend, and there's so much mutual business that we could be doing together. It's really cool. So I'm like playing the role of a talk show host, talking to friends, which is really fun and cool, and highly recommend that as a podcast to kind of hang out with friends and create content along the way. I'm looking forward to you guys getting to know Jessica and Lauren. Lauren, why don't you introduce yourself first, and then Jessica, definitely introduce yourself.
Ooh, that's pressure. So hi, everybody. I'm Lauren Cohen. I am originally from Toronto. I am now in South Florida and very grateful to be here as the winter is coming. I'm an international lawyer, a cross-border expert, and a realtor. I help people invest across borders. My tagline is helping you invest, live, work, and play across borders. And I love what I do. Really love what I do.
Now,
you have to do it.
Are the borders exclusively Canada and US?
Absolutely not.
So it's any border, any country, basically.
Yeah.
All right, that's cool.
Although most of my people are Canadian, it just kind of happens that way. I happen to be one of them,
Yeah, they seem like nice people.
Most, not all. A few ex-husbands, we won't go down that road.
I mean, Canadians have a stereotype of being nice, which, it's not a bad thing. So that's cool. Jessica, how you doing?
Hi, I'm Jessica Koch. I'm the Italian mother of 7. I'm an international speaker. I've been speaking nationally for 25 years, internationally for about 3. And we do sales and marketing consulting, LinkedIn and social media training, and we have a virtual assistant membership program. And at this point, I think we have clients in almost 15 countries. So it's been going pretty well.
This is a very international episode. This is wonderful.
That's right.
Great. I'm not international. Well, that's not true. We have members in other countries. In Germany, for example. So Video Socials is international in a way. And we'll grow more. So that's really cool. So thanks for coming on to the show and sharing a little bit of how you've benefited from LinkedIn. So Lauren, you have a story of how, and you're very active on LinkedIn. You're active in a variety of ways.
Can't control the weather. That was major thunder.
Oh, really? It's thunderstorming in Florida.
Yeah.
Ooh. But from what I understand, the thunderstorms pass.
They will pass, but this has been going on all day. I got out right in the nick of time to take my dog for a walk, but it's
pouring and thundering. How are the dogs doing? Sometimes they don't like.
The dogs are sitting like within about a foot of me.
Yeah.
Both. Right. Yeah.
They feel protected. So you're active on LinkedIn.
Very.
And I'd love to hear, even before you share a specific story of how you've gotten a client from LinkedIn, what are all the things that you do and have done on LinkedIn, and how did you even get started with being active on LinkedIn?
So way back.
Yeah.
Before most of your listeners were born, I'm just kidding. Way back, I just started building a network on LinkedIn a little too generously, right, Jess? Because I was taking everybody because I just wanted to build my numbers, which was a mistake, because what happened was about a year ago, we had to go and eliminate about 30% of those people.
That's an annoying process.
It was definitely annoying, expensive, tedious. I didn't have to do it. Jessica's team did most of it. But it was, the truth is, I think it's a matter of I, at the beginning, wasn't properly trained. Mm-hmm. I just took it upon myself instead of hiring the right people. And over time, I've worked with many LinkedIn professionals, or so they call themselves. The most recent one prior to working with Jessica's team was somebody out of Colorado who made all of these promises, and I spent probably $15,000 literally. Now, it wasn't all my money, but it was it was a disaster, a complete disaster. So it's all, at the end of the day, it comes down to vetting. Just like LinkedIn is about vetting the prospect and vetting the colleague and vetting the strategic partner. And it took me time to get there and a lot of money. That $15,000 was not the first money I spent. I probably spent about $25,000 over time on LinkedIn, different strategies.
Without calling them out and disparaging anyone in particular, what were some of the mistakes that you feel like? One of them you mentioned was kind of going for quantity versus quality, if we could say it that way, right? A lot of us get into that metrics of collecting and we want to see it's over 500, over 5,000. It's like, for what? So what are some of those mistakes that you've done?
Well, I mean, so beyond myself, which, I'm going to make mistakes. I don't call myself a LinkedIn professional, although some people would say that I am at this point because I'm pretty well-versed in LinkedIn. Sure. I could do trainings. I do trainings for our team, for our real estate team, as well as for my own team at eCounsel Global. But I also have a podcast, as you know, which has been very well received on LinkedIn. But I think that one of the biggest challenges is that people make a lot of promises that they just can't deliver. And LinkedIn changes so much, and whatever, like what you think is okay, like they profess that they're LinkedIn experts and you're going to pay them this and they're going to do that. Or I had a company I hired and they wanted to build my profile, which means adding contacts. And a lot of the contacts, like they were obviously using a wrong algorithm because a lot of the contacts were completely not even in the same world as what I do. So it's really, I guess, a matter of like the E-Myth, right? Like Michael Gerber says, it's knowing how to manage the people that you assign to do things. Because if you don't know at the beginning, I didn't, then you're spending a lot of money and throwing it away because you don't know how to hold them accountable. And that was a very big challenge for me, for sure.
And then how did you meet Jessica?
Well,
how did we?
Should I make up a story?
No. Why make it up? I mean, you don't remember. If you don't remember, it's okay.
I do not
remember.
No, it might have been
a networking event, maybe.
I know. We were on. We were both speakers on. I think it was Kimberly Hobshides or something.
Rocket business.
Yeah, at the beginning of the pandemic, kind of thing, right around August of last year.
Yeah.
Okay. I believe. Relatively recently, so a little over a year.
Right, and we just like had an instant connection. There was a lot of things we were going to do and we still may do, but life gets in the way.
Sure, right.
And we're both very busy and building our respective businesses, but we've managed, and there's been some glitches, don't get me wrong, in our relationship, but the point is that we're both professionals, and Jessica and I have a really good mutual understanding. Like that's one thing when you're hiring somebody to manage your social media or help with your social media or provide services with your social media, they have to be willing to take responsibility. And you also have to take responsibility, because you can't just point fingers and say, well, this, and this wasn't done, right?
So it's delegation, not abdication.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And I am not great at that. That's something I try to be clear in my direction, but sometimes, I'm the lawyer, and I think that what's clear, it may not be clear to the virtual assistant that's working with me through no fault of theirs or mine. It's just that there's a disconnect. So it's a matter of just being on top of things and maintaining accountability, both for yourself and for whoever it is that's working on your portfolio.
So Jessica, what are some of the kind of things when you guys started working together, there may have been kind of, I don't know, lack of a better phrase, universal things that you tend to see like frequently among your clients, specifically to LinkedIn work? What were some of those universal things, if you could kind of share with it, if Lauren doesn't mind, some of those universal things? And were there some things that you found that were specific, again, not to disparage any other professional, but specifically to help Lauren and as an attorney, as well as in the real estate world? What were some of the kind of things that you said, all right, immediately we need to start working on it, and maybe there are future plans? Can you share? And that helps us get to know the kind of work that you do for attorneys and professionals.
So Lauren is an amazing partner to work with, because she really has a good vision of where her company and her business is going and the things that they're going to achieve and the goals that she has in mind. And so in that respect, it makes it a joy to work with her because it was very easy for us.
I'm a pain in the ass, though. Don't get her wrong. She's being really kind, okay?
This is the vision of how
I really love Lauren. That is the.
You have to love me if you're going to work with me. You're going to love me or you're going to hate me. That's it.
Love her or leave her.
Exactly.
Well,
sorry, Jess.
One of the most important things were she does a lot of amazing events, which if you're not doing an event as an attorney, I don't care what kind of attorney you are, in my opinion, really leveraging events, especially on LinkedIn and all these other platforms that are event search engines are so important to pull new people in your world. And, I think this, and I have been saying this for eons, far before we had this giant glitch with Facebook, is we don't own these platforms. So we need to make sure that we're owning all our context. So exporting and downloading and pulling all that data out and making sure you have the information that you would if you had gone to LinkedIn to see, what company they work for, what's their phone number, what's their website, all these things should be on Excel sheet outside of LinkedIn because you own your contacts and your data and all of the, amazing articles and videos and things Lauren has done have to be back up quarterly. And leveraging those events is another really huge piece. So we've been able to support her in setting up events and inviting people to events, and just inviting them isn't enough. You also have to send a direct message to remind them to say, hey, you showed some interest in this event. Want to register, we would like to have you there. But, and then Lauren's just really blessed too with an amazing community that follows her that really values what she has to say because people show up in larger numbers. And I know a lot of my other clients struggle with that. So she's actually already solved a lot of some of the harder problems. And we are just there to give that extra support for the tasks and the doing, right? Those little
$25,000 later.
Well, hey, that wasn't us.
No. I'm just saying, I hope after spending that much money, I would have been a little ahead of the curve. Just a little.
So Lauren alluded to, outside of any kind of money, Lauren alluded to that there were other things that you guys will eventually start doing. Some of them may be private, so I don't want you having to reveal that. But is there anything that others can learn from that they can either maybe cobble together and try to figure out themselves, or better yet, money well spent to hire you to get it done correctly?
If you're an attorney, or if you're involved in investing or real estate in any capacity, if you're a broker or if you're anything, you should be talking to Lauren because the opportunities for financial growth in that space, because my business is doing so well, some of the things she's alluding to is my husband and I are investing in doing lots of different things, and real estate's on our checklist and bucket list for that. And when we're ready for that piece, we will be moving into a space to collaborate more in depth internationally in real estate investment with and through Lauren's program. So if you're thinking about that or you have questions about that, I highly encourage you
to set
up some time to attend one of her webinars, speak with her if you can get on her calendar, and count yourself lucky if you can, because she has some real value to put there.
That's a good segue back to you, Lauren. So can you share with us maybe an example of how you've gotten a client from LinkedIn and how that actually transpired?
It's hard for me to pinpoint a specific client, but I will say this. For me, look, you guys, I didn't connect you through LinkedIn, but I connected you guys, and I'm a connector, right? I'm a lawyer, I'm a realtor, I'm international, I have a podcast, I'm whatever, but I'm a connector at the core. That's my main gig. I love LinkedIn because it has opened doors to collaboration, which Jessica referenced, which is my key word. Collaboration and strategy are always going to be the number 1 and 2 words in no particular order for me. Now, the collaboration is about collaborating with people like you, Vic, and Jess, and others. And the strategy is also about the collaboration, but it's also about the clients, because I want to provide clients with a strategic investment plan. If they don't have a strategy, they're never going to execute on it. So I think that for me, I may not be able to pinpoint a specific client that I got specifically from LinkedIn, but from doing events on LinkedIn, we get people in, and then they're nurtured and they go through the funnel and we build relationships. Now, for me, One thing I found very, very useful on LinkedIn is video. And I started doing video before this was one thing I did learn from a LinkedIn person that I spent a lot of money with, is they did videos, they did some custom videos, some videos that you ask questions and the client responds. And that has allowed me to build relationships, especially through COVID, because I think through COVID, my LinkedIn presence has been magnified, and not just magnified, but also solidified. Okay. And that's, I think, where the difference lies. I'm not all about what client I get, how much money I make, what's the bottom line. At the end of the day, we all want to make money. I am about the relationship that I know that when Vic asked Jessica for a lawyer to come in and she reaches out to me, forgetting that I connected you, which is kind of funny again, but that's the relationship that I've built, that relationship of trust. Because when somebody reaches, there's some up and down of LinkedIn, we'll talk about that, but it's just really about the relationship. And that's always going to be the number one goal for me on LinkedIn or any other social media platform, but LinkedIn is B2B. So that's my drive,
And it's good that you mentioned that, Lauren. So some attorneys that we speak with on the podcast, including clients, get business or clients specifically from some kind of campaign, from the post, from a direct messaging campaign, some type of outreach perhaps that they've done through LinkedIn. Others get referred, like other attorneys, as you know, Lauren, lawyers love referring each other. That's happening all the time on LinkedIn. And then you bring up something really interesting that I don't think a lot of guests will talk about in terms of how both of you have collaborated on events and using LinkedIn events and thus the other systems to drive audience and participation to the event. And look, that's a profound part of LinkedIn. That's a part of LinkedIn that I don't think a lot of people do use, to your point, Jessica. So that's great that you're able to use LinkedIn in that way. Yes.
I would say, I know this is about attorneys and attorneys getting customers, but I could tell you some pretty amazing stories from a client acquisition standpoint. And I think people underestimate the ability to talk to just about anybody on the planet. So a couple of quick examples are, I got contacted January of this year. I got a phone call, my phone rang, and the person said, "Hi, I am the leadership coordinator for Microsoft's executive team." And I kind of stopped him and went, "Really?" Because, I also,
it was a radio station pranking you.
I also get emails that tell me I've got $5 million if I would just my bank information. So
Nigerian prince.
He said, "Well, let me explain." He said, "Here, I'm sending you a connection and introduction right now on LinkedIn." So I opened up my laptop, and he did. And he said, "Here's what happened. Someone heard you speak at a virtual summit." He said, "Hey, I want you to, go get that girl to do a leadership training for 40 of our team members." He went to my LinkedIn profile and saw my phone number there and just picked up the phone and called me. And, and so this is Microsoft, right? And then the other appointments and presentations and opportunities I've gotten are things like I flew out and met with Staples executive team, their CFO and their team, and made a presentation. That next day I did New Balance, because literally reached out to the guy, the CFO, on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, we've got a meeting with Staples executive team down the road from you on XYZ day. We're going to be in town. Can we meet with your town and present too?" He said, "Sure, come on over." So, I mean, that kind of thing happened with LinkedIn. Two of my favorite authors, Jim Stengel, who was past global marketing executive for Procter & Gamble. You might have heard of him. Well, he wrote a book called Grow, and I reached out to him on LinkedIn and had a phone conference set by his secretary almost right away, because basically I was genuine. I said, "Look, I'm a big fan of your book. I love this. I love that. Would love to have a collaboration conversation." He said, "My secretary will schedule it." And I did this with a multimillionaire who owns a publishing company also, who's Mark Allen, which is another all-time favorite author for me. A book I read again every January. I read his book again because it's called The Millionaire Course. It's not about being a millionaire, but it's about, having and living the life you lead. And he has all these activities in it, but he's brilliant. And we've had chats about one of his things is he publishes music, and I have a hobby. I'm trying to publish a few songs that I've written, and so we're having real live human being conversations. So it doesn't matter if they're a mega millionaire or a CEO or a CFO or whatever. As soon as Best Buy got its very first female CEO, the very first thing I did was reach out to her and connect with her on LinkedIn because, go girl power kind of thing,
Very cool.
But I'm just saying you can talk to anyone on LinkedIn.
Yeah. It's like you both have mentioned, it's a B2B professional to professional platform. So people are on LinkedIn in one way or another to do business or have a professional conversation, as opposed to traditional social media where it's meant to be much more hanging out, and anything professional could kind of be awkward because it's, you don't have your business card at the ready at someone's cocktail party, maybe we do, but most people don't, right? So, but at a conference, of course you have your business card. You're there to do business in one way or another. Lauren, you mentioned some up and down happening with LinkedIn. Like, what did you mean by that? I want to give you a chance to.
No, I'm saying that it's not all fun and games.
No, it's not all fun and games. Yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot of downside too, or not, because you get a lot of spammy stuff. And
sure.
Look, about, I don't know how long ago, I don't think Jessica knows this, but a couple of years ago, this absolutely beautiful guy. No,
thank you.
Pardon?
That's like, I just said thank you, and you were about to share how I spammed
you. He reaches out to me. He looks like George Clooney.
Oh, okay.
And he reaches out to me on LinkedIn, and he's in crypto, and he's somewhere in the UAE or something like this. And, he's like, I don't even know how he knew at the time that I was single. I have no idea, but
it's getting better and better.
He went after me with a vengeance. I mean, talk about dating fraud. And the guy, like finally, like the guy would never talk to me. No, never show his picture when he was talking to me. It was very strange. And finally, sure enough, where he was. I'm not going to say the name of the country. It was definitely not the UAE. And it was very, very interesting. Anyway, that was a very...
so you can be led astray on LinkedIn, just like any other social media.
And not everybody is who they say they are.
Sure, of course.
And not everybody can do what they say they can do. But that's going to happen anywhere. And again, it's all about vetting and making sure that you are not just like jumping, oh, this is perfect. Oh, this is that. And that's this and whatever. And that's where my business has come since COVID, is into a true vetting and accountability relationship with my partners. And maybe part of that was having those experiences.
Well, sometimes we learn the hard way, but it's at least you learned, right? And not keep getting burned. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to have a final question. You guys are both going to, and we'll start with you, Jessica, share something that you really love about LinkedIn and something that you don't like about LinkedIn. Lauren, you shared a quick thing about something you didn't like, but maybe there's something else that you wanted to talk about, as well as definitely we'll end on a positive note of something that you really do love about LinkedIn. So give us a moment here. Do you want your own podcast like this one? My team will do all the grunt work for you. Just show up, smile, and enjoy talking to your potential clients and referral relationships. Go to videosocials.net/govip to watch our 9-minute webinar for all the details. Are you a busy lawyer, coach, consultant like me? You should have a podcast done for you to get you more clients, impress your colleagues, and it becomes your perpetual referrals flywheel. We find you the right guests. We schedule your guests, handle all the podcast tech, get you into Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and more. Done for you. Go to videosocials.net/govip to watch our 9-minute webinar for all the details. Now back to the show. And let's wrap up. Jessica, what's something that you really do love about LinkedIn? And then you can go with the negative.
So I think what I love is it is this brilliant, in my view, and this is my own personal opinion. You have to be careful, all those lawyers out there watching. It's like a global chamber of commerce. We get this opportunity to collaborate and do business with people from all over the world. And like I said, the ability to reach out and really have conversations and genuine relationships with anyone, no matter who they are and what position they hold in life or how much money they have for that matter, you can talk to anyone. And I love that about LinkedIn.
What's something that you don't like about LinkedIn?
I wish the software was a bit more friendly to use and that the platform itself was more progressive thinking. So every one of the CEOs and big executives and all of the influencers that they feature and promote on their platform, even, you know, they're not running all of their LinkedIn stuff themselves. They do not have all the pieces in place for a team to properly support these influencers on the platform in a way that doesn't sometimes cause havoc, right? And so I love the security, and I love that they want to, you know, shut down a platform they think is being hacked or has a problem, but they need to have allowances for in a correct manner for teams and employees or staff or whatever to support these people.
And you know, those could be, you know, executives and CEOs of Fortune 500 type companies, but they could also be like everyday professionals like us and Lauren, who are busy, and we need a support structure like your team, Jessica, right? Where other people, to kind of call it what it is, other people can log into our LinkedIn and kind of use our LinkedIn on our behalf in an ethical, obviously proper way, but or use certain types of ethical automation or things like that, where we do it in a correct relationship way.
Yes.
But it's ridiculous to think that a busy professional of whatever size and caliber can do it all ourselves. You know, we need a support structure.
And they're not putting in allowances for that are
we have to do it like surreptitiously. We know we have to do it.
And nobody wants, I don't function that way. I'm
no one wants to be like black market
honorable person, and I want them to have the tools and the things in place for us to show up in that manner. So
that's a great point, Jess. I don't think I've heard that one before, but that's great. I think about that black market aspect, and it's funny because, you know, companies like our video socials, we have an automation partnership with LinkedIn, right? So it's all vetted and approved. But outside of that, it's to have any other thing happening. Quite frankly, it's organizations like ours and yours, Jess, that very often helps folks like Lauren and other attorneys, other firms end up maybe even upgrading to LinkedIn Premium and start paying LinkedIn. So to some great extent, we become like sales professionals for LinkedIn. We're driving their revenue base, right, to a great extent, because we're saying, hey, to access this, you ought to pay and be a customer of LinkedIn. And, you know, now they're making money off a professional who otherwise would have been a dormant person on LinkedIn, barely a profile, let alone a paying customer of LinkedIn. So that's a great point. That's excellent. It's something you don't like, but and also to LinkedIn's bottom line interest. Lauren, something that you mentioned a little bit about what something perturbs you. You know, look, you know, there are bad actors everywhere, but is there something else that you don't like about LinkedIn functionality wise, and then you can follow up with something that you love?
I bet Jessica knows what my answer would be.
All right.
So, you know, when you pay for Sales Nav or Premium or whatever, you should be able to access increased numbers of contacts, because I think that 30,000 is very limiting, especially for somebody that has multiple streams of income and multiple business lines. That's a very big challenge for me. And despite getting rid of all of these contacts, every time a new contact comes in, I have to be so careful. And I'd rather have at least a little levity or a little leeway to be able to create a relationship and see before I make that decision, but I can't. On the positive side, I mean, I think I've really alluded to the relationship building, the opportunities, the professional nature generally of the
connection, the relationship, yeah.
You know, and allowing us to have the freedom to build those relationships internationally definitely is unparalleled. You don't get that elsewhere, and just you know. I think everybody should pay to be on it, something, not maybe the $79.99 or whatever the navigator is, but that way I think it would also or at least have the enhanced level so that we can interact at a higher level of interaction and collaboration as well.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, I think a lot of people are so new to even exploring LinkedIn where they don't even know where to start, and specifically within the legal realm, right? Which is why the purpose of the podcast is here, is to help other attorneys know that this thing is real. Like, this isn't just a bunch of people spamming you and trying to sell you something. It's not just a way of, let's say, getting the next job or what have you, that there are true business connections. And if you are a solo or partner in a boutique firm or even a large firm, you can actually get clients using LinkedIn. Like, this is real. And it's kind of the reason why I invited you, Jess, and invited you, Lauren, to kind of give examples of how, and I think both of you have brought up really specific insights and anecdotes of how you've benefited from LinkedIn. So thank you to both of you for being on the show.
Thank you, Vic, for having us.
Before I do my whole wrap-up script kind of thing, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you guys? Obviously on LinkedIn, that's one way. Is there another way that people can get a hold of you? Is there a website? Is there anything that people ought to know to get a hold of you?
Jess?
I am Jessica Koch.com. So www.jessica and then the letter L and then Koch.com. And so that's my website. And of course you can find me on LinkedIn.
I'm sure we can. Lauren?
Well, I have like a few websites, but I think the one that would be, there's two that would be easiest. LaurenESQ.com is where my podcast is hosted. We are going to be building my whole brand around investing across borders. So that's going to take over. But in the meantime, Real Estate Across Borders is where I put my webinars, my master classes, my mastermind. Everything that's going on is on Real Estate Across Borders. That's kind of my main gig these days.
I appreciate that. And I always like to end with some takeaways, and I appreciate a couple of the takeaways that you mentioned, Jessica, especially that it's not only okay, but encouraged maybe to not, LinkedIn doesn't totally appreciate that, but to have a support structure to kind of handle some of the things. They can turn to you, Jess. Of course, Video Socials becomes a video blogging platform for our professional members. So that's really cool. And Lauren, I really love that you plugged your podcast that's around international real estate investing. That's really cool. And thank you for the plug of using video on LinkedIn, because I always like to make that kind of an ulterior lesson to be learned. If it doesn't come up naturally, I try to find a way, because inevitably, as we know, LinkedIn prioritizes video posts, which is why we have Video Socials. Again, my name is Vikram Rajan. I am the host of this program, LinkedIn for Lawyers, True Stories of Client Acquisition Told by Attorneys. You can subscribe and listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, which I personally use on Google, on Android rather, and a variety of other podcast mechanisms, as well as our YouTube channel, and of course on Facebook Live and LinkedIn Live every Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Thank you again, Jessica and Lauren, for being my guests for today.
Thank you.
So let's be bye, everybody.
Thanks for asking.
Thanks.